Okay, good day, eh? Pop quiz, bud. Look at your hobby shelf right now. Do you see inspiration or do you see receipts with sprues attached, eh? Yeah, that's what we're fixing today, beauty. Today we're talking about money versus value in the hobby and why that box avalanche in your closet is secretly killing your motivation faster than bad dice, bud. If you've ever felt guilty about spending or stressing about storage, hit the like, subscribe, and let's tame this beast properly, eh? Welcome back to C7 Hobbies, where we just don't paint minis, we unpack what's going on in your brain while you're doing it, eh? This episode's part of Taming the Collection Beast, the psychology of collecting, backlog guilt, and how to enjoy your hobby without feeling financially or physically buried under plastic, bud. Today we're digging into something deeper than just budget better, because it isn't about spreadsheets, it isn't about minimalism, and this isn't even about buy less stuff, eh? This is about mindset. And when you shift the mindset, everything else gets easier. So let's go. Beauty. Money versus value mindset. The emotional weight of spending. All right, let's start with the big one, bud. Money is objective. Value is emotional. When you buy a kit, the price is fixed, eh? $60, $120, whatever. That number doesn't change. But the value, oh, buddy, that shifts constantly, depending on how much joy you get from it, how much you actually use it, and whether you finished it, and whether you regretted it now, bud. Now, I'm not going to make up statistics here. I don't have exact data on hobby-specific regret rates, eh? But we do know from consumer psychology that regrets increases when purchases don't align with long-term goals or identity. So when you impulse buy a new army at 11 p.m. after watching one YouTube video, and then 3 weeks later you're looking at it going, oh, what was I thinking? That's not weakness. That's identity friction, eh? You bought something that didn't fit the hobbyist you actually are right now, bud. Your brain knows it, and that friction creates guilt. Which is why half of us have Necron boxes we swore we would start next month. 2 years ago, eh? The hidden trap. If I don't build it, I wasted money. Okay, this is where it gets heavy, bud. A lot of hobbyists tie value to completion, eh? If I don't paint it, I wasted it. If it's still in the box, I threw money away. Every unpainted model is proof I'm bad with money. But that's not entirely accurate. You've gotten some value from the excitement of buying it. The dopamine hit was real, eh? The research you did beforehand, learning about the faction, watching reviews, the daydreaming, imagining color schemes and list building at 2 a.m., the community discussions, talking about it with friends, sharing the hype, the anticipation, just having it felt good, eh? That's real psychological value. Now, does that mean overspending is fine? No. Does it mean you should buy everything that sparks joy for 5 seconds? Also, nope. But it does mean that value isn't binary. An unpainted box isn't automatically wasted money. It might have served a purpose you're not giving it credit for. Plus, if we're being honest, some of those boxes are future retirement plans, eh? Vintage Warhammer is going to pay for my cabin someday, bud. That's the dream, eh? The shift from cost anxiety to intentional spending. All right, here's the mindset shift that changes everything, bud. Instead of asking, was this worth the money? Try asking, was this aligned with my hobby priorities right now? The subtle shift changes your whole relationship with spending, eh? If it aligns, yeah, no guilt. You made an intentional purchase that fit your current hobby season, bud. If it didn't, that's just data for next time, not a moral failure. Beauty. You bought a start collection box because you were generally excited about the faction. Aligned. You bought 3 boxes because they were on sale, but you don't actually care for about any of them. Not aligned. See the difference? You're not trying to be perfect with your money. You're trying to be intentional. Big difference. You're a hobbyist, not a hedge fund manager, eh? If your spreadsheet has more tabs than your army has models, we need to talk, bud. Storage stress. Why clutter hits harder than we'd like to admit. All right, let's talk about something nobody glamorizes on Instagram. Storage stress, eh? Boxes under the bed, sprues in drawers, terrain in the garage, that one shelf that physically is bowing under the weight of your ambition. And the closet, oh, there's a closet playing 4D chess with you, bud. You open it and boxes just launch at your face like they're mad that you abandoned them, eh? Now, clutter research does show that visible disorganization can increase stress levels and reduce focus. I'm not going to exaggerate that, but it's real. When your hobby space feels chaotic, your brain registered as unfinished business, eh? And unfinished business, that drains energy constantly. Even when you're not actively thinking about it, your brain's running a background process that says, hey, remember all that stuff you needed to organize? Yeah, me too. Just thought I'd remind you while we're, trying to relax, buddy. It's like having 17 browser tabs open in your head, except they're all on eBay listings for terrain that you're totally going to use someday, eh? The psychological impact of visible backlog. Here's what happens when your collection is everywhere. Decision making gets harder. Your brain looks at the pile, goes, I could work on any of these. All of them. None of them. Help, eh? Motivation drops. The pile stops being potential and starts being pressure. Avoidance increases. You stop going to your hobby space because, it stresses you out instead of relaxing you. You don't think, wow, I have options. You think, where do I even start, eh? That's storage stress. Not because you own too much necessarily, but because your environment feels out of control, bud. And humans, we don't do great when our environment feels chaotic, eh? I once couldn't find my airbrush for a week because it was buried under future projects that were also buried under past regrets. I found it eventually, right where I left it, under 3 Necromunda boxes I swore I'd start to soon, eh? The shame spiral. And here's the quiet part that nobody talks about, bud. Storage stress feeds financial guilt, eh? You see the pile, you remember what it cost, and now it feels heavy, emotionally, not just physically. The emotional stacking can make you avoid the hobby entirely. You walk past your hobby room and your brain goes, nope, too much, can't deal, let's go watch TV instead. And now you're not enjoying the hobby and you're feeling guilty about avoiding it, eh? Double whammy, bud. But here's the thing. We don't want that, eh? We want plastic joy, not plastic anxiety. So let's fix it. The value triangle. All right, time to mix things up. The value triangle, eh? Every hobby purchase sits somewhere between 3 types of value. Number 1, use value. Will I build, play this soon? Does this fit into your active hobby plans right now, bud? If yes, strong use value. If it's going to sit for 6 months, weak use value. Number 2, joy value. Does this excite me deeply? Not, oh, that's cool excitement, bud. I mean, I can't stop thinking about this. I'm already planning colors. I need this in my life excitement, eh? If it sparks deep joy, strong joy value. If it's just, meh, it's on sale, weak joy value. Number 3, community value. Does this connect me to others? Does this help you play games with friends, join a campaign, or participate in the community? If yes, strong community value. If you're buying it to sit alone in your basement forever, weak community value. If something hits at least one of these strongly and doesn't harm your finances, it likely holds real value. If it hits none of them, well, that's where the beast sneaks in, bud. This isn't about minimalism. This isn't about only buy what you'll use immediately, eh? This is about alignment. Does this purchase align with the hobbyist you are right now? Not the hobbyist you imagine being someday. Because someday is where hobby budgets go to die. Right next to, I'll start that army next month, and I'll definitely magnetize this time. Practical strategies. All right, let's get practical. These strategies work in the real world, eh? Money strategy, the alignment pause. Before you buy anything, pause and ask yourselves 3 questions. Question number 1, do I know when I'd start this? Not someday, not eventually, when? If you can't answer, that's a red flag. Question number 2, what role does this fill in my hobby right now? Is it replacing something, adding to an active project, starting something you're generally ready for, or is this just existing, eh? Question number 3, would I still want this in a week? If you saw the same box next week, would you still feel the pull? Or is it just a dopamine spike you're chasing, bud? These questions aren't to restrict you. They're to slow down the impulse loop. They give your brain some time to catch up with your wallet. Because 3 a.m. eBay purchases have a 100% chance of feeling very different at 8 a.m. when your bank account emails you, eh? All right, storage strategy. Reduce visual overwhelm. You don't need a bigger house, bud. You don't need a second hobby room, eh? Though that would be nice. You just need intentional organization. Step 1, visible active project zone. Pick one thing that's active right now, bud. Put it on your desk. That's it. Everything else, out of sight. Step 2, box everything else intentionally. Not shove it in the closet and hope for the best. Actually put it in boxes with lids. Why? Because your brain stops seeing it as unfinished tasks and starts seeing it as an inventory. I'm not using right now. It's a psychological difference. It's huge, bud. Step 3, label containers clearly. Works, unbuilt, terrain, painted, regret, do not open. Whatever works for you, bud, just label it. Step 4, quarterly revisit check-ins. Every 3 months, look at what you've got stored, bud. Ask, do I still care about this? If yes, keep it. If no, sell it, trade it, donate it. Holding on to stuff just in case is how closets turn into avalanches, eh? And nobody wants to explain to the paramedics that they got knocked out by a falling gorkanaut, bud. That's not the hobby story you want. Emotional strategy. Remove moral language. All right, last strategy, and it's the most important one, bud. Stop using moral language about your hobby, spending, and storage, eh? Stop saying, I was bad today, or I wasted money, or I'm out of control, or I'm a failure at this hobby. Replace it with neutral language. Start saying, that purchase didn't align with my priorities. That storage system just isn't working for me. Or I need to adjust my approach. Problems are solvable, bud. Identity attacks are paralyzing, eh? When you tell yourself you're bad or out of control, your brain shuts down. It goes into shame mode, and shame mode doesn't motivate. It freezes you. But when you say that didn't work, let me try something different, your brain says, okay, we could fix that. You're not a bad person for buying too much or having a messy closet. You're just a person learning how to align your hobby with your life. Big difference, eh? All right, let's take a breath with me for a second, eh? Your collection is not proof of failure, bud. It's proof of enthusiasm. The goal isn't owning less. The goal is owning intentionally and storing peacefully. You don't need to purge your entire collection, eh? You don't need to feel guilty about what you've bought. And you don't need to have it all figured out today. You just need to take one small step towards alignment, eh? That's enough, bud. Reflection. All right, before we close out, I've got one reflection question for you. What part of my collection actually brings me the most value right now? Not what should bring value, not what cost me the most, not what you wished brought value, what actually brings you joy, use, or connection right now, eh? That's your anchor, bud. Build around that. Everything else, it's secondary. All right, if this episode helped you breathe a little easier about money or storage, do me a favor. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with somebody whose closet just whispered, "Organize me, eh?" Until then, remember, spend intentionally, bud, store peacefully, and the collection works for you, not the other way around. Now go forth, be awesome, and paint for the paint gods.